Welcome back, folks. Again, we just finished up the segment on getting the engine back together. Again, you massaged it back together, you followed the manufacturer's recommendations, you've got everything to the proper tightnesses, and then they're going to say there needs to be a break-in period. Now, it's kind of cheating with the newer rigs, the computer controlled rigs. It's automatically done. And one of the mistakes that people do, because they're still thinking old school, is they'll put oil in their gas. Do not do that. You totally mess things up. Okay, again, follow the recommendations. The old machines, like this old Polaris, some of the old rigs, the recommendation was to put some oil in the gas. But only do that if the manufacturer recommends it. What needs to happen now is this machine, one of the really important things to happen with an internal combustion engine is to have the rings, what they call seat. In other words, those really hard cast rings are moving up and down. They're actually going like this, and then when the piston changes, they're doing this. And that, when they wear in, it's called, the rings are being seated. Very, very important with the engine. That's what will help keep them from breaking. And one of the things that really helps, well, a couple things that really help with that is, don't run the engine at a consistent RPM. Make sure you're changing the RPMs up and down. Don't run it wide open. A lot of them will say don't run it over half throttle. And some of them will say, well, you need to do this break-in period for like a tank full of gas. And again, maybe the manufacturer, if it's one of the older machines, the non-fuel injected, it'll say mix this much oil with your gas. Again, you're following the manufacturer's recommendations. Okay. Again, make sure you're keeping the water out of your system and keeping the varnish, keeping your fuel clean. And there are some things that I have students do that you need to do before you try and start this. One of them, obviously, make sure you have gas in it. Another one is make sure you have oil in it. And again, read the manufacturer, read the manual, and it'll tell you the quantity of oil. Now, some of them won't. Some of them will put oil in it until it runs out. So make sure you're following their recommendation. One of the things I like to have done, because you don't know if someone worked on this engine before, is check the head bolts. Find the torque spec for the head bolts and make sure that the head bolts are torqued the way they're supposed to be. Also, it doesn't hurt to do that on the sump cover, okay, because some of those might be loose. Okay, so again, that's really important. Another really, really important one is make sure that the ignition system turns on and off. That means when you turn it on, or turn the dial to turn it on, make sure that when it's on you have spark, and when it's off you don't have spark. Okay, that's really, really important, because then you can do that. You don't want to have to reach in and try and pull the spark plug cap off, because you're going to get zapped. And the other thing, which is very, very crucial, there used to be an old Briggs engine in the shop, an L head, that there were two big holes, one on each side of the crankcase. In other words, the engine, I believe, over-revved because the governor was not set properly. And it basically exploded. And it threw pieces of rod out of both ends of the motor. That's dangerous. Okay? So you look in the manufacturer's guide, and it's going to show you how to set the governing system in here. That is very, very, very important on these type of motors. Again, these are the motors used for generators and that kind of thing. In other words, when they have a load, the RPM drops, they have a system on them that will give it more gas and air and bring the RPMs back up again. That's called the governing system. Very, very important that is functioning properly. And that's the process and how you break in a newly assembled engine. Make sure you do the checks that I mentioned. Again, turn the spark off, make sure the governor is working properly, oil, and be kind to it, be gentle to it. All right, let's move on.